Sir, I'm sure you're wondering what's with the vestment. I only wear this on special occasions. Last night I wore it. We have our big festival down at Good Samaritan, and at 11:30, quarter to 12, midnight, 12:15, whenever they're done cleaning the grounds, they all gather for mass. And generally, what I say to them is, I just want you to know from the bottom of my heart that you've been here for, some of you, 12 hours, cooking and slaving and everything. I want to tell you two things: that I really appreciate all the hard work you've done, and that you really, really need a shower. But I got this vestment as an ordination present from Yinka Aganga Williams and her friends at St. Benedict the Moor in the Hill District. She's from the Yoruba tribe of Nigeria, and she made it herself. And I wear it on special occasions like today. The readings today are kind of strange. Imagine Jesus walking up to this guy who's deaf and mute. He wants to be cured, but he doesn't really understand probably what's going on because he's deaf and he can't speak. Jesus puts his fingers in his ears and spits and touches his tongue and says, "Ephphatha, be opened." And all of a sudden he can hear again and he can speak. And kind of the miraculous thing is that he can speak clearly, because if you can't hear words, you don't know how to form your tongue and your mouth to make the words. You couldn't expect him to understand what he was saying, because it would have taken him probably years of listening to other people to learn how to speak that way himself. But he was able to speak clearly, and it was just a miracle. But the great miracle wasn't that just that he could hear and speak, but it opened a whole new world to him. Imagine what it must be like not being able to hear what everyone else is saying to you. And I think maybe worse than that is not being able to tell people anything. That you love them, that you're upset, that you're in pain. I had a dear friend who was deaf, and it was amazing to me that he could speak as well as he did. He worked really hard at it. And it's a world that we can't begin to understand. But God bless them. They're just amazing. But in this guy's life, it must have been even worse, because in that Old Testament mentality, they thought that anyone who had something bad happen to them, that they must have sinned. They felt that what goes around comes around in this lifetime. If you were a really good person, you'd have all of the wealth that you wanted. You'd have a beautiful wife. If you were bad, you'd marry some guy who tells really, really bad jokes and thinks he's funny. But his whole world changed and it opened up. You have to read these things not just at the surface level of that God was able to work miracles. And Jesus did those miracles to prove that he was, in fact, the Son of God. He was God himself, so that people would pay attention, and not everyone did. Some of them dismissed the miracles as parlor tricks because they were jealous. They were listening but not hearing. The second way you have to read the scripture is, okay, what's the symbolic meaning? And the symbolic meaning is for us, is do we listen and not hear? Do we really, really understand what's going on around us in the world? Do we pay attention, especially to those who love us? Sometimes we're so self-absorbed in whatever crisis we're dealing with that we forget about the people around us, and that we don't hear what they're asking. It happened to me last night. I was at the festival and I was running late. I was getting ready for confessions. And I had done a trip to the hospital to anoint somebody who was dying. And we were setting up for one of the booths. And this teenage girl came up to me and she tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Hi." And I said, "I don't have time to talk. I really am late for confessions. I got to run." And then afterwards, I felt really bad because I wasn't paying attention to her. And I could have just as easily, in that same 15 seconds, said, "Hi, it's good seeing you. I'm sorry I can't talk right now. I'm really, really busy, but I'll call you later." She sent me a text. I sent her a text message saying, "I'm sorry if I was rude to you." And she texted me back, "That's okay. I could tell you were really, really busy. I was just going to ask if you were okay and needed any help." Sometimes we just don't listen. I remember going through papers when my mom died after I got out of seminary and seeing this note from her talking about little dumb things, you know. And at the end of it, she said, "If you get a chance, at least once a week, could you just send me an email or call me or just say hi so I know you're okay?" And I realized that in my busyness and trying to pass all the classes and learn about how to be pastoral to people, I was neglecting my mom. All she wanted was to hear my voice once in a while. I mean, she carried me for 9 months and changed diapers for so many years. It's the least I could do, but I didn't hear till she was already gone. And how often do we do that? It's so important that we listen to the people around us, that we hear what they're saying and hear in between the lines sometimes. And it takes a little work to listen that way. I did 2 funerals this past week, one for a 97-year-old who was my altar boy until he was 86. And I did a funeral for a little girl who was just 2 months shy of her 2nd birthday. Just the sweetest kid. She lived in Franklin, PA, near Oil City. And she just smiled all the time. And she was completely fearless. And she would walk up to everyone and, "Hi, hi, hi." She was fearless. Everyone that she met wasn't a stranger. It was just a new friend she hadn't met yet. And her dad was just one of those doting dads. And she only had about a 6-word vocabulary, one of which was "dada." And her father told me at the funeral that whenever they would go somewhere and she would meet a new person and they would say, "This is your great aunt on your mom's side." And she would turn and point to her father and say, "Dada," like she was introducing him because she was so proud of him. How beautiful is it that he was able to speak a little kid, that he understood how much she cared and admired him. How often do we miss those chances, whether it's talking to your teenage children or talking to the next door neighbor or talking to your spouse? How often do we miss the chance to listen with our hearts, not just to them, but to God? And if we can find the ability to hear better, to listen with our hearts to God and to those around us, want to change our world and make it just a little brighter place to live.